Okay, let's start from the beginning in terms of infrared. So anybody that's listening to this episode, they might not even know what infrared means. So what does infrared mean, and what is an infrared sauna?
Yeah, this is one of our most popular questions that we get. So really, what is an infrared sauna? It's a sauna which is delivered by light. So infrared is actually, the words mean below red. So what we're talking about is on the electromagnetic spectrum, a light wavelengths. So instead of delivering heat by way of hot coals or by convection, like an oven, sort of like how traditional saunas work, we're actually delivering far and mid-infrared wavelengths, which happen to be hot, which are absorbed into the body and create, various biochemical cascades of health benefits. So it's working very differently to a traditional sauna by delivering light, and that light is being absorbed into the body.
And how does that differ from a traditional sauna? Because most people will understand saunas as extreme heats. You go in there, traditional Finnish sauna, all these sorts of terms come out quite a lot. So how does infrared and traditional kind of compare?
Yeah, so a traditional sauna is, very effective at delivering a very hot experience into a small room. So it's heating the air, essentially, and then that air is heating your body quite superficially. So with an infrared sauna, it is heating the body from the inside out. So you're actually absorbing heat and the wavelengths inside the body. So it's a very different mechanism, and it also feels different. So it's working with all of the benefits that you get from heat therapy, but also delivering all the benefits of light, which some people might know as photobiomodulation, or just light therapy, essentially.
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons, so I've got a traditional sauna at home. My brother, who lives next door to me, has got a infrared sauna. He's actually got sunlight.
Okay.
So one of the reasons I went for traditional, well, first of all, I have access to both, so it kind of made sense to have one of each.
Yeah.
But one of the benefits that I thought initially was time, because I can't sit in my traditional sauna for longer than like 15 minutes. So in my head, I'm thinking, right, shorter, sharper sessions, same benefit. But what benefits are there in infrared saunas over traditional saunas? Why would someone go for that over the other?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So firstly, traditional saunas are great at delivering that really high heat. But what people don't realize is often they can't be in there for long enough in order to achieve that hormetic stressor that you're looking for and like driving heat shock proteins. So there's a misconception that it's hotter, but actually you can't achieve any increase in heat shock proteins because the body isn't able to withstand that heat long enough. So firstly, from a health perspective, infrared saunas are able to deliver that heat. And I think there is a bit of a myth that they're not as hot, but that's definitely not the case. So we can mimic that traditional sauna feeling and intensity, I would say, is probably a better word to use, intensity. But you're getting all the benefits of heat, being able to then not just endure the sauna session, but in particular, you can enjoy it and stay long enough to get the heat shock proteins and the stressor, the hormetic stressor. But then you're also achieving all the benefits of the light therapy. So really, we can go into a whole host of different health benefits when it comes to infrared, but what it all boils down to is our ability to really achieve a mitochondrial recharge in the body and really affect the body from a systemic perspective. So that has the knock-on effect of we see benefits of sleep, of detoxification, of heart health, reduction in stress, all because we're able to get down to that cellular level.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so for someone listening to this, can you just describe a typical session of each? Because I know the feeling is very different. And one of the things I just said now was actually the time was a benefit for me, but it was interesting what you said, that actually you need a bit more time than 15 minutes a lot of the time to get to those benefits. But can you just describe the feeling, the sensation, the typical session between the two?
So with a traditional sauna experience, you're walking in and you're immediately hit with that hot air, and it's quite overwhelming. And so people either will, people normally are sitting down and they're not necessarily laying down because it's not a relaxing experience. They're trying to often, breathe. Their heart rate is raised, and they're really just trying to get through as many minutes as possible. And for some people, it's contraindicated. People with heart conditions, and often, it's not that advisable for people who have chronic stress or burnout to be in a traditional sauna, because it's not going to be a part of their recovery. So as opposed to if you walk into an infrared sauna, what you're going to feel is, that you've kind of walked into a space that feels like potentially the Bahamas or something. It is that feeling of being in the sun, and our bodies, we have this, primal attraction to that sensation of the sun and the heat, and it really is, our bodies recognize it instantly. So it feels warming, it feels soothing. But towards the end of, say, a 25-minute, 30-minute session, having had your heart rate raised for that period of time, people often then feel that, okay, this is now quite challenging, and are pushing to either get out. And so, yeah, it's quite enjoyable for that period that they're in. And although there is a level of intensity, it doesn't feel unmanageable. So,
yeah, no, I agree with that. And one of the things I notice when I get in my heated sauna is actually stings your nose when you're trying to breathe. It gets so hot that it's actually quite painful on the respiratory system a lot of the time. And I get that. I'm clock looking most of the time, because it's like, right, when can I get out of this hell?
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a debate online where people are saying because infrared is not doesn't have the typical features of a sauna, that we shouldn't even call it a sauna. What do you think about that? Is there a defense in that aspect?
I love that people care enough about this to be debating it online. I mean, I didn't have any idea, but this is great. Well, I think you have to go back to what is the definition of a sauna. Okay, so the definition is we're in a small room. It's a small room that is heated to a high temperature for the purposes of recreational use or therapeutic use. So if you go back to the definition, well, yes, by definition, an infrared sauna is still a sauna. It's just that it's so much more than that. And, I like to call it it's a next generation in sauna, because now we understand fully the benefits of heat, and now we actually are able to add light therapy to that. And, there are also a number of practical reasons for having an infrared sauna as well that I don't think people realize. I mean, it's much cheaper to run. It's much easier to maintain. It's simpler to install. There are less risks with, having fire risks in your home. And so it really can be very plug and play and accessible to a lot more people as well.
Okay, and another thing I've seen quite frequently in the sunlight saunas is you're now introducing red light therapy.
Yep.
So we'll talk about near, mid and far infrared in a minute and the differences, but most people will understand the term red light therapy.
Yep.
Why is it important in the minute to start stacking the different wavelengths in terms of red light and the infrared saunas?
Yeah, well, every wavelength has different health benefits. And, when in our quickfire, that's what I was alluding to. So a lot of people get confused, but what's really important is that depending on your goal for using light therapy or an infrared sauna, you need to understand what wavelengths are going to benefit me most. But what's really great about our new Pulse IQ sauna is that we have near, mid, far and red light, all targeted wavelengths, and then the user is able to personalize the blend of those wavelengths according to what they want to use it for, or what they want to use it for now as opposed to in the future, or what different family members need it for. And so I think that that's really powerful, because it's not a one size fits all situation. We had near infrared in our saunas for a very long time, which is actually an 880 nanometer wavelength, which is slightly deeper than red light. We've introduced red light as it's become, as our customers have asked for it. It comes down to what the user wants to really use the sauna for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we talk about red light, near infrared, mid-infrared, far infrared. Just for simple, idiot's guide to what does that mean and what's the difference?
Yeah. Okay. So if we go back to a science lesson, on the electromagnetic spectrum, you've got different wavelengths of light, and you've got the visible spectrum and you've got the invisible spectrum. So far, mid, and near come into the invisible spectrum. So they're not visible to the naked eye. So they are just different wavelengths of light. Far is the longest wavelength. That one is a heat-generating wavelength of light. Now, that one is specifically more associated with detoxification benefits, circulation benefits. And then you have mid-infrared, which is a shorter wavelength. And actually, it's a really interesting wavelength because it's, where Sunlight are the only ones that can target mid-infrared because of our patented technology. It's a very hot wavelength, and it tends to be able to reduce down inflammation in the joints, muscle, and tissue very well. And then you have near infrared, which a lot of people will be familiar with the LEDs technology that is out there today with the panels and masks, which is a very short wavelength. It's you need to be quite close to it to absorb it, and that has essentially it's a bit of a wonder wavelength. It's absorbed into the mitochondria. It delivers energy right into our cells. And then you have red light, which is actually the shortest wavelength. It is 660 nanometers. It works very well for skin and other, more superficial benefits in the body. But that is the first visible wavelength. So the others are the infra and the infrared, and then you have the red light.